Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are going to finish up the second Maiden's tragedy today, and we're going to finish it with Govianus. And this is actually the very last monologue of the play. This is he says this and then the whole thing is done. So yeah, our storylines are pretty much wrapped up. We already had the whole Anselmus and his wife thing ended in Act 4, and now here in Act 5 we had Govianus sneak into the court disguised as a painter, and he painted Lady's face with poison so when the tyrant king would go to kiss her, then he would be poisoned. And the tyrant king was, yelling for help, trying to get somebody to come to his aid, but nobody would do it. And then he finally dies, and Memphonius and Helvetius both turn to Govianus, and they're like, he just sort of went off the rails, and he was freaking us out, and we didn't really want to be involved with him at the end, but we didn't know what else to do. And well, it's like they're begging for forgiveness or something for having sided with the tyrant king at some point. And Govianus says, well, he's gone, and all the kingdom's evils perish with him. And since the body of that virtuous lady is taken from her rest in memory of her admired mistress, 'tis our will it receive honor dead, as it took part with us in all afflictions when it lived. Here, place her in this throne, crown her our queen, the first and last that ever we make ours. Her constancy strikes so much firmness in us. That honor done, let her be solemnly borne unto the house of peace from whence she came as queen of silence. And then the spirit of Lady comes in and goes out with the body, sort of like it's one of its attendants. Oh, welcome, blessed spirit. Thou needst not mistrust me. I have a care as jealous as thine own. We'll see it done and not believe report. Our zeal is such, we cannot reverence chastity too much. Lead on. I would those ladies that fill honor's rooms might all be born so honest to their tombs. So he's just wrapping things up here. He with the very simple, well, he's gone at the beginning of the monologue. It's like he forgives Memphonius and Helvetius for having sided with the tyrant king at any point. He's like, you know what? All of that is behind us. Everything that's bad is gone. It's done. Let's move forward. Let's return her to her rightful place. But before he sends her back to her monument, he puts her in the throne and crowns her his queen so that she can officially be the queen as she's dying, and then, or has died, and then they take her out to put her in her monument so that she can finally rest in peace. And as that's being done, her spirit comes to, sort of escort her. So it's like spirit and body get to go back together and finally be at rest in the monument. And when the spirit comes in, Govianus is glad to see her, of course. And he's like, I swear this time you're going to be buried for real, and we're going to make sure that it sticks, and we're going to make sure that nobody ever steals you again. And he's like, please go ahead. And he's like, I hope that all honorable ladies receive honorable burials from here on forward. And that's the end of the play. So, as we mentioned at the beginning of things, there was no second Maiden in here. And that's one of the sort of interesting things about this play to me. In a lot of ways, it does resemble the structure of a lot of other Shakespearean plays. There's sort of the A plot and the B plot and some loose thread that ties them together at the very end of the play. And in this case, it's that Anselmus and Govianus were brothers. But in this one, the Anselmus plot and the Govianus plot both deal sort of with nobility, and the two plot lines, it's not like they're dealing necessarily with the same stuff, but just like the kings and the clowns going through their own version of the same thing. There is the question of the fidelity of the wives, sort of, but in Anselmus' case, he's afraid that his wife is not faithful, and in Govianus' case, she's so faithful that she kills herself rather than be forced to be unfaithful. And I guess technically Anselmus' wife ends up running through the swords, but she runs through the swords to get to Vitarius, who was the man that she was cheating on her husband with. So they're not like, we don't have a kings and clowns situation. We have two different groups of nobles dealing with different kinds of things. And there are two important women in this play, Anselmus' wife and Lady, neither of whom gets an actual name, but neither of them also qualifies as a maiden for it to be the second Maiden's tragedy. So it's more like this is the second play that deals with a maiden's tragedy. I guess if you want to say Lady was maybe a maiden. There's some sort of horrific stuff that happens in this, the stealing of Lady's body, and of course all of the deaths that happen, and Leonella and Belarius' anger and vengeance towards Vitarius that we don't really know where it came from, but setting him up when he was actually an innocent man to begin with. You know, his sort of downfall through this play is interesting to look at as well. I don't know that I can necessarily say that I enjoyed this play because it is kind of icky, but I do think that it's an interesting one, and an interesting one to dig into and see what love can make people do. Maybe that's the big takeaway from it, is it's an exploration of the extremes that people will go to when they are in love or think they are in love. So anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Please leave stuff in the comments. And tomorrow we're going to start in on a new play. It's called Sejanus His Fall, about an actual historical figure. So we will get into that a little bit more tomorrow when we kick off new play day. I'll see you then. Mwah.